So we're back with episode 5 of season 2 of Resident Alien. This episode is titled Family Day. So let's get into this. Alright, so I did think this was going to be the New York episode, but way off. That's not the case. So this episode, it opens with flashbacks for the sheriff of his time as a police officer. When he lost his partner, we find out all about this and the grief that he's going through because of it. This was sort of hinted at in the previous episode, as we know. Now, a great bit of growth for the character of the sheriff himself here. We continue with the storyline of the missing memories between the sheriff and his deputy, Liv. And this leads to the sheriff approaching Harry as a doctor about memories being missing from his mind, because he can't remember taking his dad for a biopsy and all this sort of stuff. But Harry does plant a memory in his brain of a good day, because the sheriff does state he hasn't had a good day since he lost his partner, this sort of thing. So Harry's planted a memory in there of him fishing with his father and this sort of a thing. That comes to fruition throughout the episode. Now, the primary story for this episode is Harry, the real Harry, has a daughter who's come to town looking for her father. And she confronts him, and they're not... The original Harry van der Spiegel and his daughter didn't have a very good relationship. So this starts off on rocky ground. And obviously Asta, she gets involved in this sort of thing to help protect the daughter. But Harry does garner a relationship with her throughout this episode. Different than what she had with the real Harry before, but she still believes this is her father and this sort of a thing. But this is also sort of like a story structure set up to get Harry in a position, the alien Harry, to go after his family member that's potentially in New York. By his family member, I mean another alien that's possibly on Earth and this sort of a thing. There's a family day being hosted in the town that the mayor's put on, like a little carnival, like a little fair, this sort of a thing. That ends with a fantastic a stage show production of the 59, the people that died in the cave-in that's in the background story of this town. And it's such a messed up show. It was really good. It was amusing, but it was in such bad taste, and the mayor couldn't see this and this sort of thing, that it had the audience in shock, and it was very good, but Harry found it to be highly amusing, and this sort of stuff going on. There's all this, you get all this other stuff with the little ball. The ball's been stolen, and that geezer who's in the cabin has got it, and all this sort of stuff going on, pointing at a bigger picture story to come. But, so again, a lot of characters have been brought into the fold again. Every character gets a moment within this episode. And the story structure of this series, it kind of surprises me. And it's also quite tiresome, to be honest with you. The fact that we have to shoehorn every character into every episode, it is quite an annoying trait for the show. I feel the show would be much stronger if they separated out the townsfolk, so you had some in one episode, some in another, with a little storyline, as opposed to everyone having to be crammed in and having a story within every episode, because you're taken away from the narrative that you're most interested in, that being on an individual basis, obviously. Because some narratives might work for one person and may not work for someone else, and that sort of a thing. Look at a show like The Walking Dead, which has got a huge cast. This show's got a huge cast, not as big as that, but The Walking Dead took it to a point where some characters would be in some episodes and others, and this is what it needs to do, but primarily focus around the character of Harry. Now, the directing in this episode was actually directed by Leah Thompson. Leah Thompson, you might remember from films like Howard the Duck and Back to the Future 1, 2 and 3. Yes, she played Marty McFly's mother. Obviously, Lorraine Taylor, was it? Something like that. Her name was Lorraine. One of my, Leah Thompson. What can I say? So the directing was adequate. I felt that the daughter was very similar in a sense to obviously a couple of other characters in the show with the dyed hair and all this sort of stuff. And there's a very similar feel going on between some of the female characters. I don't know if that's on purpose or what, or if the show's still pointing at some sort of an agenda with this. I don't know. But it was an okay episode. You know, it's not the episode I wanted at the time. Like I said, I expected it to be the New York one, but we're getting into that over the course of the next 2 episodes. Next episode, Harry goes to New York, and the episode after that is entitled Escape from New York, a la the John Carpenter movie. So, you know, stuff's going to happen, and taking the character of Harry out of the element that he knows, a small town, and putting him into a cityscape will probably lead to some interesting stuff. But my prediction is that the show will still cut back to the town and stuff happening in the town, which is going to detract from that primary story of Harry being a fish out of water in a big city. So that remains to be seen. But all in all, you know, it was an okay episode. Some interesting character growth for a couple of characters. Harry, his human side coming through more, and family and all this sort of thing. But yeah, the show is suffering problems, and I believe that it's suffering a fatigue at the moment, which is unfortunate, because that first season was so fresh, so new, so nuanced, that we've come into season 2 and a lot of that's been lost, and I can understand why people are getting frustrated with the show. But nevertheless, I'll still be back for next week, and I'll give you my thoughts on next week's episode. This is AJ. Thanks for watching. Please consider hitting the subscribe button and commenting down below your thoughts on the series as a whole at the moment, your thoughts on this episode. Let's have a good discussion, talk about it, and yeah, have a little bit of involvement. That's what it's all about. Anyway, this is AJ. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care all, and goodbye.